all right. We're on, and our boy Scotland comes in the very last minute. My brother, how you doing? Looking like an Eskimo.
Now I can't hear Raul.
You can't hear me. Am I on mute?
I can't hear Raul. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you,
Yeah,
Raul.
I can't hear either of you.
Chris,
try to. Marky, but yeah, we can hear you, man. Maybe some on your side with the volume. No.
Nope.
Hey, text with Marky real quick, man, and we'll keep doing our thing. Chris, hit settings gear icon. Hit the settings gear icon. Can you see that? Well, while Chris is trying to get his stuff figured out, man, I am in lovely New Orleans, Louisiana right now. I'll tell you what happened, Doug, last night, man. I got here yesterday. I'm here for a conference, brother. And then as I'm here, man, of course, I didn't, when I made the plans, I didn't know that yesterday was Veterans Day. So you had to go figure that part, right? So, and when I get here, man, I get in the hotel, I get some food and get in the hotel. I'm just kind of chilling, bro. And then I start hearing some music in the background. And it kind of sounds like a band, and I'm like a high school band, like one of them things, So I'm kind of hearing in the background, I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm looking at TV like, damn, it's not on TV. Like, where is this? I look out my window, brother, and there's a freaking parade going on right down damn the street there where the Marriott is that I'm staying at. And they're just playing the damn. I'm in some shorts here. I'm just kind of jamming in my room all by myself, man. I had no idea that there's Veterans Day parade going on. I forgot about it being Veterans Day, man. So it was just kind of cool to kind of have that happen in lovely New Orleans. I went ahead and got some red beans and rice last night, man. So I'm trying. Yeah, brother. Yeah, man. I got some red beans and rice last night, doing my thing, man. So what are you up to? What's that?
I said I had jambalaya last night.
Oh, so we're in keeping with the whole New Orleans thing, man. Good deal. What's been going on with you, Dougie Fresh? What's up, man?
Just fighting this wintertime bug I brought home from D.C. I was telling somebody yesterday I brought home some D.C. liberal cootie bug or something. I don't know, man. There was a bunch of crazy shit going on there. Maybe they gave it to me, but.
All right. Chris, you still ain't hearing us, brother?
I can hear you now.
Okay, Chris is back in there. Chris,
I didn't do anything.
Who knows, brother? Who knows, man? Technology is a weird thing, man. Chris, you're looking like an Eskimo, my brother. You're bundled up there. Yeah. You got the woolly hat on. What's going to be cold in Virginia? Where else, man?
Yeah,
is it cold up there?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. When I drove back in late night, it was snowing.
Man,
it's a little bit chilly.
Listen, man, us Florida boys. When I left Florida yesterday, it was 35. Was it, Doug? 35, somewhere around there?
Yeah, it was in the 40s over here on the coast.
Holy, it was cold, man. And I got here and I got up here in New Orleans. It was like 35, 36. So yeah, man, it's cold. That's why I didn't go outside much yesterday, man. I went and got something to eat and took my butt back inside because it was cold, man. I was telling them, Chris, I'm not sure if you could hear me about the parade and everything. Well, when I made plans to come up here, didn't even realize it was Veterans Day. I had no, it's Tuesday. Like, who's thinking Veterans Day? Thinking that, right? So, get up here, man. I'm in my room just kind of chilling. And all of a sudden I hear like a band in the distance, like a high school band. I'm like, all right, yeah. And I'm kind of like, where's that shit coming from? I look out my window, man. Like a whole Veterans Day parade is going on. So I'm filming it. I got some shorts on. I'm filming it. It was too cold to go outside, though, man. I wasn't going to go outside. I understand it. I can't do it, man. I'm from Florida, man. So anyway, what you been up to, Chris? What's been going on with you, man?
So drove from Virginia to Kentucky, which actually wasn't a bad ride at all. Went to through like West Virginia and obviously the western part of Virginia, so I went through the Blue Ridge Mountains and then went into the Appalachians. So down in the heart of the Appalachia. Then I came up to this weird blue and yellow bridge. I'm like, I was at University of West Virginia for about years, and those are their colors. So I was like, oh shit, okay. Then drove back through Pennsylvania, then into Jersey, took care of some stuff there. But yeah, went to the Kentucky state FOP wellness conference.
Very
We
cool.
saw our buddy Trevor, the Angry Viking, present over there. Phenomenal
Good.
stuff. Big shout out to the Kentucky FOP. But yeah, it was a good time. Then came back to Jersey and then just drove back to Virginia.
Very cool, man. Very cool. So now, and gonna give a shout out to my boys in Orlando PD that won the SWAT Roundup International. Pretty cool deal. I was doing that all last week involved with that SWAT teams from around the world. And I'll tell you this, man, it's pretty cool. That, during the thing is a week-long competition in Orlando. Again, we get SWAT teams from around the world that come and compete and train. Pretty cool event. On Wednesday, they have it's called the Florida SWAT Association Appreciation Night, and that's a mouthful, right? Any case, it's pretty cool to see these elite operators talk about mental health, even if just for 20 minutes. They take a few minutes to talk about mental health. They talked a little bit about their faith this year, and it was really cool to kind of see that and the guys be comfortable with having that conversation and not kind of just turning off, to the night. So that was pretty cool. But anyway, guys, hey, we got a great show, great topic tonight.
Yeah.
Great, different topic, I think. And we're going to kind of hit it off. We're going to talk about adrenaline addiction, and this is not something that I'd ever heard about in my career. It's just one of those things you just never heard about it, never even thought about it, didn't know what it was. But it's one of those things that I guess over a course of career, if you're not careful, you take a little bit. Next thing you know, you just can't deal with it. You can't do without it. Does that make sense, guys? You guys know what I'm talking about?
So I just watched yesterday. I watched two things yesterday that were just phenomenal. One was The War in the Waves, or Waves in the War, and it's about using psychedelics to treat some of our hardcore warriors down in Mexico. And then I immediately followed that up because after traveling, I just wanted to download and just watch TV. I saw Sean Ryan's interview with one of the guys that was on the Bin Laden raid. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because when I was thinking about what we were going to be talking about in today's show, right on the head. He goes, most of the guys and the warriors that I work with and dealt with and all this other stuff, his story aside, check it out if you haven't seen it. He goes, it's not PTSD, it's LTSD. He's lack of traumatic stress disorder. And so Sean Ryan's like, well, can you explain that? He goes, yeah, I existed for 14 years, every day, feet kicking out of the bed with a purpose to do some harm, put some, put some hardware on some people and do all this other stuff. And I was like, fuck, that's what we do. Get up every day that we were working, and you get so used to it that when you don't have it, it feels weird. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? I thought it was so on point because Doug and I, we all talk about this, that we I think I do at least feel more comfortable in chaos than when it's really quiet.
But I was just talking to our boss Marky, right? And Marky, she knows that we call her the boss, so she knows. Just talking to the boss, and I don't mean to make light of this, but it's like any addiction, right? Like you get a little bit of what we do. You get you get a little bit of what we do, right? You get out there and you're a rookie cop and you get into your first foot chase, or your first use of force kind of thing, and you come out on top. You've done everything right, and that is an adrenaline high. I mean, it's like any kind of addiction, right? You get that first high, and that is just amazing, right?
Yeah.
And then you want it again, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
You want it again, and you go looking again, because that's our job. Our job says, "Hey, go find bad guy," and then however you do that. But go find bad guy, and there's a high that's you guys are both being interrupted by different addictions. But there is an adrenaline that happens when you go in to find bad guy, when of course, the foot pursuits, the car chases, hell, the and we're all three of us have done undercover work. So the undercover buy, the takedowns, right? And of course the shootings and all of that stuff is all, there's an adrenaline high that comes within that. And now, just like anything else, and look, you guys are killing me today.
Get down.
You guys are killing me. We go through a career of that, and we forget to turn it off, don't we? Isn't that what happens? You forget to kind of, you can, not always, but you can forget to turn it off. Go ahead.
So it's like, so when we were doing a lot of the CIT stuff, trainings, just trying to understand what people are going through. And a lot of the folks, like where I worked over in Norfolk, where the world's largest military installation is right here in our backyard. So you're not going a minute without running into a vet or an active duty guy or girl, whatever. Anyway, so we talked in CIT about, what that looks like when you can't turn it off. And I was talking about, could you imagine being deployed for 400 days? And every time you're driving, you see something on the side of the road, you become aggressive and you cut to the other lane. Or if you're going under a bridge or like an overpass, when you're in the military, you never drive out the same way you came in because somebody could drop something on the side, or so you're just trying to keep it going, right? So while I was talking about that stuff, I said it's hard to turn that off. You do 400 days, you get deployed, you come back, and you just can't. It's not something you can just switch off. And one of the guys that was in the class, he kind of looks down, and I was like, "Everything all right?" He goes, "I can't believe what I just did." I said, "What happened?" He goes, "I stopped this kid who's driving aggressively." Young kid, sailor, and he's getting back, and he's talking to him. He's like, and as the guy, he's like, "Why are you driving like an asshole?" Like, that's again just being real. Like, why are you driving like an asshole? He's like, "I'm sorry, man. I just came back from deployment, and sorry." Didn't explain anything other than that. And the cop's like, "Well, you know what? Here you go. This is what you get for driving like a dick," and then kind of sent him on his way. And he goes, "I never even thought that this kid just came back from a deployment, and that was his life." And he goes, "And now I feel like an asshole for giving him a ticket." I said, "Well, here's the good news. You can go to court and get that ticket dropped. And yeah, you are an asshole for giving that guy a ticket for not kind of understanding. But it's just, it's like when I talked about, because someone was asking about it last time, that clinician I was working from Denmark, talking about, we have the battle mindset, and she came up with a whole thing called the home mind.
Yes.
So at battle mind, being hyper vigilant is a safe thing. Mm-hmm. Being hyper vigilant at home can be like very, disciplinary, or ordering people to do this and this and that. Or when you're deployed, keeping OPSEC stuff or operational security at home looks like you're keeping secrets, or you're being withdrawn. Yeah. So you kind of have to understand, and you gradually kind of shift into what it's like being at home, so that you're not in this, because the shit that kept you alive is the shit that's kind of ruining your relationships and making it tougher at home. And so it's just kind of understanding, what you're going through and how you're dealing with it, but you can't turn it off. And just think about it. That's 400 days. Imagine 25 years of this, and then trying to not do, what you've been doing for 25 years to keep you alive or sane or whatever. It's just,
Doug, let me ask you this, Doug. Do you remember when you realized that you were just like chasing the adrenaline, just loving that and chasing it? When did you realize it? Did you realize it in your career, or when did they tell you, that happened?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I recognized it towards the end of my career. Mm-hmm. And it was the whole package. I was undercover. As you guys know, when you're undercover for a long period of time, you lose kind of track of who you really are. I'd been spending most of my career and my personal life, they kind of matched with high adrenaline stuff, all the stuff I used to do, to include big wave surfing. It was an adrenaline. And what had taken place was, and I learned this through my clinician, through Denise, was I was addicted to chaos because I performed my best in chaos. As you know, being a SWAT operator my entire career, sniper, all the things I did, I became used to that. And at the end of my career, it had progressed into my uh, outside work environment, going out drinking, picking fights. When I'm not comfortable, as you guys know, and it's quiet, I like to start fights, whether they're verbal or physical. And so all that stuff had manifested into this big, giant explosion of chaotic lifestyle. And, ultimately, Karen was the one who said, hey, if you don't fix this and stop it and calm down, you're not going to survive it. And so it was a little late well, it's never too late unless, something tragic happens, but it was towards the end of my career, unfortunately. And, yeah, I'd caused a lot of damage in the wake of that.
And so, and Chris, same question to you, man. When did you realize you might have been chasing the adrenaline a little bit? And yeah, go ahead, man.
So there was like a couple different stages. I remember so earlier on in my career was probably, and you guys know, the majority of our work is paperwork. I remember really hustling through paperwork so I could do what I needed to do, whether it be an ops plan or just type up notes on what we're doing, so I can get out and either get the guy that just murdered somebody or get the guy that's selling dope or guns, or whatever, right? And then I got sick, and I got sat down for a little bit after the last shooting. Not in a bad way, just administratively, you kind of get put on the back burner for a little bit, and you're going through the investigation, all that good stuff, right? Once that I got off that, and I got kind of thrown back into the mix, and I talked about that back in the day, but I got thrown back into doing the work. The one thing that prevented me from thinking about all the other bullshit that was going on in my life was work. So the longer I could stay busy out on the street, doing what I needed to do, getting in chases, fight, whatever it was, right? That adrenaline and just seeking that kind of, to me, that was very comfortable. And then when it was time to go home, I didn't want to go home, right? That whole oh man, I don't want to go home and then download all this stuff. I just want to keep on going and just kind of working that. And then I remember it was also like that when we were at Ground Zero, right? You didn't want to stop work. If you stopped to really kind of take in where you were at and what you were doing, you'd break down. It was rough. So working, constantly fucking around with the guys and girls that we were working with, when we're on site and doing all this other stuff, you wanted to keep that momentum. And I remember when we had found one of the shields from some fire equipment, everything stops. And I remember my body just vibrating. Like, I don't want to be standing still, but you have to. Everything, all the equipment stops, everybody stops. They call the firehouse. They bring out, a team that comes out and they cover the reins and flag, and then they take them out, right? But I remember that pause, and it felt like a decade. And all I wanted to do was all right, let's get back to work. Let's get back to work. Because it kept me kind of moving as opposed to just kind of processing it and being present, which that's ultimately what it was. I didn't want to be present. I wanted to be focusing on the next step, forward, right? Because when I stopped, what happens is I don't stop and become present, just like a lot of us do. I stop and I automatically go back to what the past was and all the stuff that bothers me and all the shit like that. And I'm never in the moment, right? I'm either 10 feet ahead of myself or 100 years behind, trying to figure out what's going on. And we get normalized to that. That becomes we learn that, right? And Gil Martin in his book Emotional Survival talks about that our baseline is up here, and our highs are really high and our lows are very, very low. Whereas everybody else has kind of got this really median line, and then it's just highs and then lows and highs. We start high, and so our lows are really lows. And when we get to that point, our comfortable level is high, and then it spikes higher. So we're not really so I started noticing that probably significantly later on in my career, where I was just trying to keep busy for the sake of not thinking about all the shit that I was going through or feeling. And that became like a coping mechanism. And of course, that destroys relationships. It destroys all sorts of shit. And just the one thing on the downtime when I'm not running and gunning, what am I doing? I'm getting hammered. I'm getting hammered. I'm getting fucked up. And I'm not doing it like I need to drink. It was I'm hanging out with my boys. I'm hanging out with the guys, and we're having a great time. And we did. We had a phenomenal time. I wish I could tell you that a lot of those times were shitty. They were hilarious.
For sure.
Just unhealthy as fuck. And then I retire, and that carried over. So it's I don't know. Maybe for you guys it's the same, but like there was different stages where I saw myself like not pausing. And then I was like, why am I not pausing? And I'm like, oh, fuck that. I don't want to think about it. Let me just keep on doing this.
Yeah, I think the adrenaline for me was in 2 stages as well. I think being addicted, I think, started early in my career when I went to the bike squad because we were just all proactive. It was just go out there and do it, and we kind of became a quasi drug squad, a street drug squad, right? So we were just out there running and gunning, so to speak. So I just absolutely loved that part of it. So I remember, and this I didn't know it then, but I remember when I came home to sleep. I mean, I would work till 3, 4 in the morning, come home, pass out, and then get up at 8 to go do it all over again. Or either, of course, making some off-duty money, and I would always work the off-duty places that were kind of excitable, if you will, and then back to work again in the regular job. Back on the bike squad. So that was just straight adrenaline. And later on in my career, I remember thinking, I would get mad if I missed something.
Oh my God, that would be the worst.
Yeah, just the worst, right? You did what while I wasn't here? While I was off, something happened. You guys need me. I'm supposed to be there. I want to be there. That kind of thing was what, and I realized that's where my kind of light bulb. Man, I really am addicted to this adrenaline. Whether if it was SWAT. When I was in the Marshals Task Force, FBI Task Force undercover, you were not to do anything, and I wasn't supposed to be there. And that really, threw me. And again, same thing. I mean, it messed with my sleep, it messed with my relationship. And I would carve out. My time would be. I mean, I'd be down to the minute. If I had to do something with my kid, it was from 6 to 8, and then I'm back to work again, at 8:05. I mean, I would carve it out just so, so that's kind of how I would do it. Hey, quick question here, guys. We have a question. I'm going to read it to you guys. Why is negative emotional inner turmoil still so powerful sometimes, even after doing the work with therapy?
Emotional inner turmoil still so powerful, even I did. Again, it's learned. It's learned. You can't do something forever and then stop doing that and then kind of balance out. It takes a little time to kind of get that balance back in. Here's how I would kind of explain that. And I'm going to ask you guys to remember a long, long, long time ago. And Raul and myself might be a little bit different because we came from military into law enforcement. But even then, I remember hitting the streets, buying whatever, and going from relative calm and to working a shift or a couple days, going, oh man, this is a quick pace. Like this is a lot. And I remember trying to myself thinking, all right, I got to learn to keep up with this kind of pace because you just can't sit on your ass and not do anything. I think I learned how to do that relatively quickly. The flip side of that is, 25, 30 years later, it's not as easy to come to unlearn that, right? So, because it's becomes almost habitual. So you're again, when we go up, let me ask you this. And this is from personally, I would be late to personal things, but I would never be late to work.
Right.
Fucking never.
Right.
Because that FOMO, that fear of missing out. Like you want to get in on something, and good, bad, or otherwise. Like if something really was bad, you wish you were there to kind of be, in the mix with everybody else, because everybody's got that thing. Same at the firehouse. Like if you were off and there was a big fire, you're like, fuck, I missed the big fire. I mean, it's dangerous stuff, but it's, I think we got addicted to that bond that we had, trauma. And this one guy, and again, just kind of referring to the podcast that I was listening to the other day, when they asked him about, when Sean asked him about the thing that what was one of the best things that he knew about that of his memory in the SEAL teams or wherever he was working, he goes, knowing that at any given moment in time when I was working or operating, we were operating for each other, not for ourselves. Like my goal was to make sure my people didn't get hurt. Their goal was to make sure I didn't get hurt. And you don't find that when you get off of work, right? Then it's just you on your own kind of thing with your family or whatever, right? And I remember thinking, I think that's what I meant. And when I retired, I was like, I don't miss the job per se. I miss the people, and I miss the context in which we were hanging out in. Like I can't tell you how the only time I laughed harder was when I think we were in, I forget, we were all sitting in there, where were we? Houston? No, I forget where we were. But the only other time harder than that was like in a surveillance van, when we're in there, we're getting loopy for like 12 hours in the surveillance van, or at hour 36 of a homicide investigation when we're trying to catch notes up and do stuff, and we're I don't miss the being tired. I miss being in that position with people that I loved and that we were a team. You don't have that. So I can understand that when you go to treatment or you go to therapy, you learn, it's a psychoeducation. You learn why certain things are. And it's one of these, it was a bittersweet thing. I know for me, I didn't know what I was going through until my doctor said, hey, you have this. And I remember going, oh, that's what it's called. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I have this, right? So it takes a while. And again, it's not an overnight thing. You kind of got to work at it, but it's powerful because it's something ingrained with love. Like for the love of the game, my friend, I can't tell you, why do you think there's so many TV shows about being a cop?
Yeah.
It's not because it's boring, right?
I was just going to say, and also like it doesn't, I was always told that it doesn't go away. It's identifying it and knowing how to deal and cope with it. And if you're still active, you got more coming. I mean, there's more shit that's probably going to come. So it's about being able to identify it and learn how to deal with it. So, it's still powerful sometimes because it's always going to be there. You don't forget the shit that you've done, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. Well, hopefully you've learned how to deal with it and you positively. And that's what we're hoping to get. I wanted to go back real quick into we were talking about when we got addicted. Did you find yourself at some point like just in survival mode and just even when you're home, kind of being in that, and you already talked about a little bit, Chris, but just being in that mode, right? Like in that, and I was again telling the boss that, and we talk about this all the time, right? But I got to the point where I could just be hanging out at a parade or at a bar or and the first few minutes I'm in there trying to figure out, okay, who am I going to kill first if everything goes bad, and which way am I going to get out? At the restaurant, okay, if this guy comes in here, somebody comes in now and they pull a gun, I'm doing a SWAT roll to the left. I'm hitting the wife down with the right hand as I'm shooting with my left. I got the whole thing planned out.
Yeah, I don't think that's I don't think that's bad, especially nowadays, because it's getting pretty violent. But I can appreciate how while you're doing that, you're not present with your family or with your friends.
Now, again, because that whole thing starts kind of. So the first 5 minutes, everybody's having a good time. I'm figuring the lay of the land, right? So now they're thinking, oh, he's pissed about something. Not knowing that I'm probably not. I'm just doing what I'm doing, and not it can go a negative way. Doug, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I actually, I touch on that in presentations. That exact same thing. I was notorious for it. Karen used to call it SWAT commander mode. Like, cause you guys know, man. This kind of sounds crappy, but it's the truth. When you walk around all day with a gun on your chest, looking like you're in Beirut, and your presence changes the atmosphere. When you walk into a building, when you walk into a crowd, when you walk into a restaurant or a 7-Eleven, everybody goes, "Oh shit, look at this fucking guy. He's got a gun on his chest." And when you pull up on scenes, everybody listens to what you say. Because I always tell everybody, we're going to beat you with this. And if we don't beat you with this, we're going to beat you with these. And if we don't beat you with these, we're going to beat you with this. And so that messes with your mentality a little bit, and your mindset after years and years and years. And when you go to chaotic events all day, every day, and that's how they're handled, which in the environment I worked in, everything was chaotic. And then you come home, and then you walk through the front door, you just assume that everybody's going to do what you say. And like you were saying earlier, like I'm barking orders out. And I had five sons at one time, and I had 6 kids. And when I used to walk in the house, it was like a fucking monkey zoo in there, man. They were like swinging from, can I use that term?
Yeah.
Karen said I can't use that. We can't use that term in the school board anymore. So, but literally, like they were swinging from shit. You know what I mean? That's the term I'm using. And I would throw an order out, and they never saw the SWAT commander. They didn't care about the gun on the chest. They cared about this. Daddy was home, and look at Dad. Look what I can do. And that messed with me. It derailed my parenting skills. And the topic I talk about was I had to learn how to, Raul, you know the term I use probably better. I had to learn how to transition into dad mode and not that guy. And it really impacted my family. It impacted my children when I came home, and they grew up with my career. I retired right about the time they were leaving. Timed it perfect. Soon as the last dude moved out, I retired, and so I didn't have to come home and deal with that. But yeah, it affected my children. They never, you've heard me tell the story of Cody calling me from Iraq in the middle of combat saying, "Dad, I finally understand why you came home the way you did." Because he had just been in a shooting, and he was like, "I get it now. Like that stress." And he's like, and I asked him, "What do you mean?" He said, "We never knew what dad was coming home. We didn't know pissed off dad, angry dad, mad dad, sad dad, but we hoped for happy dad." And that impacted me. That's pretty heavy for a kid, man, to grow up with in a house like that. So, Karen and I, we teach that segment just so no other parents have to follow those footsteps. And, there's in our careers, adrenaline all day, high speed. And then you come home, there's no adrenaline. There ain't nothing. There's no adrenaline in raising kids. That I call that a nightmare. There's a difference between the but yeah.
Doug, talking about that though, you were talking about and Chris, you already hit on it too, like a career of just going and chasing the adrenaline, right? And that becomes like normal. You are comfortable in the chaos. And you talked about it as well, Doug, right? Like you just become comfortable in that chaos. So then when you come home and it's calm, that's the weird shit right there. When you go to a restaurant and you're sitting down with your friends and nobody's cussing you and calling you whatever, and there's nothing really good, that's the weird shit. I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. And there's some science to that, right? Like,
yeah. So
Go ahead.
I'll throw this out to you guys because I know you've been in similar situations.
Yep.
Long investigations, like almost like 6 months, 8 months long investigation on this crew that killed a police chief in Carolina. Mm-hmm. And so we were working with DEA and ATF on some guns and dope charges. And I managed to pull the straw for the helicopter. We were on a Little Bird for the takedown. So we were gonna have them take down. Helicopter's gonna land. So we're all kitted out. We're all good to go. But I'm in the helicopter, and we're going through, and it was line of sight, right? So as far as line of sight communications, so a lot of communications had to go through me to whoever was watching because it was one-way road in and out into North Carolina. So they were relying on me because again I was anyway. So we're getting over there, and of course, true drug dealer fashion, they stopped an extra 3 hours at one spot that we weren't anticipating them stopping. So we're kind of in the air, doing our thing, blah, blah, blah. And then they get on the road again. And the helicopter pilot goes, oh, shit. And I'm like, all right, first of all, don't say that. Right. I was like, what's up? He goes, right. I got to get gas. I said, well, they're on the move. He's like, we ain't making it. So he goes, I need you to look. You look around and make sure there's no other aircraft. I'm like, why? He goes, I'm going to try to land somewhere. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm looking around. I don't see anything. And he goes, all right, I found a spot real lit up, like a baseball field kind of thing. Get ready to land there. We are a couple 100 feet off the ground or off the top of where the structure was. And he banks. And we're strapped in. And there's no doors on this helicopter. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, oh, my bad. I'm like, what? He goes, that's a federal prison. I'm like, oh shit, we would have landed in a prison. I was like, yeah, that'd have been bad. So he drops me off. We were in Ahoskie, North Carolina. He drops me off next to this gas station. I said, when you get back up in the air, tell him where I'm at because line of sight, we couldn't, we wouldn't be able to communicate or on the talk around channel that we had. Right. So he flies up. I land. I go to the Ahoskie Inn. These people haven't seen a fucking helicopter, let alone my balaclava. I've got an MP5K suppressed. I'm the whole kit's going on, and I go over there because I knew one of my guys' phones. I was like, "Hey, I need to use your phone." He's like, "You come out of that helicopter?" I was like, "Yep." He's like, "Oh shit!" And so we wound up doing that. Wound up takedown, got a little distorted, blah blah blah. Right. I get home, and I'm like, all right, listen, we gotta go out to dinner with Joe and Diane, and I'm like, what? I'm like, all right. I just almost landed in a federal prison. I'm chasing drug dealers, murder suspects, and then we sit in at dinner, and they're like, oh my God, this guy cut me off today. He goes, yeah, have you written a ticket with something like that? And in my head, I'm going, I was just in the fucking air chasing the baddest of the bad, landing. I mean, a lot of shit going on. I ask anybody that's listening that doesn't really kind of understand it. How do you think you'd feel? I was the most uncomfortable dinner that I had ever had. So the question is, and I think that's where we're going at, what do you do? How do you go from that to nothing? Well, and I don't say nothing, but being present.
And back to the normal, right? Like what
normal, yeah, whatever the fuck that is.
yeah, and I say that way, right? But back to just dealing with everyday, people that are just talking about like Doug always brings up, and this is I love my girl Karen like a sister, but like when how do you go from that to talking about Little Johnny that put a booger on the teachers?
I really don't care about that. And I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie, but I don't want to make them feel bad that I don't give a shit about your ass situation that you had at work.
So so I think over time though, right? So and again, I'm not trying to get too much into science stuff. That's not my lane, but over time, just having that adrenaline, you just lose touch of how the chaos becomes the norm.
So the drugs that your body produces, by the way,
and all that kind of shit.
Oh yeah. So the drugs that your body produces, and again, I don't want to turn this into a physiological thing, but the drugs that our body produces in the wake of those things and during is, I mean, you do 100 years for trying to sell that shit, right? But that doesn't, whether it's illegal or not, and you're producing it yourself, that stays in your system for a little bit. And it's just like with heroin. Initially, it gets you really, really high, and then you have to take more, and then you have to take more because you become inoculized, or almost your tolerance has just
tolerance goes up
so much that the same amount of dope isn't going to get you high. The same amount of cop work or fire work or medic work or dispatch is not going to get you that high anymore. So you kind of step it up a little bit. But the problem with that is that the lows feel so much lower, and just everything feels like it's backward. And the I don't give a shit about your dumbass experience when I almost got into a shooting, or I almost had to pit somebody, or I was in the middle of a fight. I remember sitting at a someplace like a DMV or something like that, and somebody was like, "Hey, what happened to your hand?" My knuckles were all bloody. The night before, I just got into a huge fight with some guys that we were taking down. And I'm like, without even thinking, because I didn't even know where I was like, I hit this guy's face like 300 times, and it just cut me up. And the guy's looking at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not normal for people.
Right.
But listen, how many times you get into a fight? I stopped counting. Yeah. How many times were you fighting for your life when you're on the job? And then you come home. So I think it's important for this. Hey, you can't just wing it. I'll tell you out of the gate. You can't just wing it. You need help. I think talking with somebody like master's level clinician, or just other peers and stuff, like, all right, well, what do you do? What works for you? And so
before we get there, Chris, we get there, because you're going down the right road there, but I wanted to ask one more question before we get to, the healing part of it. Is there a time, Doug, that you believe that living in that chaos is just, you got control of the whole thing?
Yeah, I always thought I had control. Mm-hmm. I always thought I had control, but literally, God was had me on a puppeteer string, keeping me from imploding or exploding. But yeah, you especially being in our positions, you have to be in control. I tell about that, the mindset of going to a calling, getting out of the car, and within 1 second you have to make a split-second decision, and it has to be precision, or else it could cost somebody their life or great bodily harm. And so that mindset, you're always in that in your career. And so you think you're in control, and being a police officer, as a fire medic, I would assume you're in control of somebody's health and well-being for the most part. As a police officer, you are in control. You have to be in control of the scene, of the environment, or else we all know what happened. And so you get used to that mindset of always being in control, and then coming home and having no control at all. And that's the catalyst that messed me up.
So I think when we talk about the control, so in chaos, there's a perceived control, especially with what we do.
Yeah, and that's what I think that, Chris, you're going down there. Go ahead, Chris, keep going.
So rather than calling it control, I think we have a better articulable and also a better response to chaos. We're ready to respond to any kind of significant event that occurs split second. That's not control in the sense of controlling an environment. It is to a degree. You're like, we're controlling the outcome, but we're not controlling what has happened to us. When we go home, we're waiting for that control as we know it as a response. Control at home is more proactive. Like, this is what we need to do now, and this is what we need to do here and here and here. So we fire off a lot better on the rapid fire stuff. Like, if stuff like, oh my God, we're driving our family and a right front tire blows. We're on it. But packing up the car to go on the trip is a whole different kind of scenario. It's a different kind of control. So I think sometimes we confuse control with our ability to adapt immediately, which is it is control, right? But um, it's a pseudo control, like it's our perception of control. Because to be quite honest, I've never been in control of any shooting that I've been in. I've been implicit in how it ends, but not how it began.
Right.
At home, it's different, and that's I think where we.
Yeah, and that's when I think that living in the chaos and the control that we have in the chaos that happens at work gives us a perception that, I got this everywhere else in life, and I got that control, and you ain't got shit, right? So, I mean, and you're saying it right as far as reactive and proactive is kind of how that shit works. So definitely. So yeah, let's get back onto, what do we start doing, man? Like, how do we start identifying and healing?
You can't fix what you don't know is broke.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say identifying and healing. What are the steps? I mean, how do we start identifying and healing this?
Here's
and figuring out a way to bring it down. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
To kind of come off that. Yeah.
100%. Get a new baseline. Yeah. So we've all talked about it, right? First of all, we have to understand what we're doing. And the best gauge of really understanding what we're doing, you've all heard it. Your dad said it, your mom said it, your wife said it, your husband said it. They are the ones that are telling you, hey, this is this, or you need to stop doing this, or blah, 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 blah. We're like the last to know, really. So once you start hearing that, and we're all on board with this, talking to somebody to help before the wheels fall off. That's the key. So there's two ways to do this. If you identify it early enough, go, hey, I'm not feeling some sort of way. Let me go talk to somebody. That's a really good way to do it, and that'll extend your life tremendously, right? Exponentially. Then there's what we normally see, all of us here, is the wheels have fallen off. Now what do we do? All right. So in my example, I couldn't get help until I was medically stable. In other words, my PTSD, anxiety, and depression were so off the charts, I had to take medication in order to get treatment, if that makes sense. You understand? So I can receive it.
Yep.
Because it's like talking to somebody who's in a panic. They're not understanding you. You have to get them calm so you can give them instructions, like at Pulse Nightclub or Katrina or wherever we're working or trades. You got people that are freaking out. You have to calm them down. I need you to go that way. Now, you may have to say that 5 times. So for us, it's the same thing. We need to be in a place to receive the information. So getting stable, whether it takes medication or just cognitive behavioral therapy, whatever it is, then how is it affecting you personally? Because we're all different. It all affects us differently, right? Somewhat. What do we do now? A lot of the things that I see emerging now, unbelievably, are, breathing exercises, journaling, talking or communication skill building with your family and stuff like that. All that's fancy shit for learning to be present, not what's happening tomorrow, not what happened in the past, what's going on right now. The other one is identifying 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can smell, 5 things you can taste and touch. What is that doing? That's bringing you down. It sounds corny, it sounds hokey, but it fucking works, right? Just to kind of understand where you're at. Then when you've kind of become present, you can start figuring out what to do from there. But that's in a vacuum. That's like with everything going right, because most of us, when we get to that point and we're trying to calm down, we've already stirred up the entire house, right? So now you're trying to gain some semblance of control. You've spun everybody up into a fight, and you're like, everybody calm down. Like that doesn't work. So it takes practice, takes communication, and the ultimate thing, I think, you have to be humble and set your fucking ego aside. You've created a situation, good, bad, or otherwise, that you need a little bit of help with, and that's okay. Nobody does things by themselves. Now, how do we do this together? That's the big thing. It's not by yourself. It's to get your team with your family, your home, whatever. How do we do this together? What do I need to do to make you at ease, and what do you need to do to help me get to that point where we're in a good place?
Doug, let me ask you this, Doug. What advice would you give in reference to just again the guys going through this, adrenaline highs and maybe addicted to adrenaline high? What would be the first, and you've heard a bunch from Chris, but what would be the first things you probably say, or what worked for you to start kind of bringing you off the adrenaline a little bit, or calming yourself down day to day, or what would you tell somebody to start doing that you learned later on in your career?
Oh man, for me is I had to learn it from a different aspect. I had to learn to let go.
Yeah.
I had my hands in too much. I'm still kind of that guy. Um, I had to and I had this saying. I grew up. One of my very close surfing buddies, when we were young, ended up becoming the pastor of the church in Cocoa Beach here, our local church. And he would always say to me, Doug, let go and let God handle it. Because I worried about everything, right? And that would come back later in my life that I would have to learn to let go. And as you guys were saying earlier, about being in control and those type of things coming home. I'll tell you, when I made the conscious decision to let go and not try to be in charge and handle everything and relinquish some of that control to Karen, I was able to have free space in my mind and my heart to heal and to see the big picture and to recover and to also have enough bandwidth, if that's the term that might work, to to see, like Chris was saying, you don't see it when you're in it. But once I relinquished some of that control, I was able to see some of the things that were going on in my life that weren't good, that I just accepted. You almost, when you're in the shit for so long, you accept it and you just deal with part of the everyday gorilla that you carry on your back. So I would just say, try to learn to relinquish some control, try to learn to relinquish some of the stuff that's in your wheelbarrow, on your plate, in your garbage can, whatever metaphor you use, so that you can open up space in your mind to be able to see clear.
So
If
I
that
just
makes sense. It's hard for me to explain how I did it, but
No,
from what I've read.
Doug, what Doug just said. Actually, it's old. It's like Greek and Roman philosophy. It's called
Mhm.
Stoicism,
Mhm.
and that's not about stifling your emotion, right? Stoicism is about understanding what you can control and what is not in your control, and maintaining a balance. Doug just said that. Doug is an old ass Roman Greek philosopher now. It is 100% what Doug just said.
Mhm.
That's what we strive to do, and it even carries on to, like, I'm not an AA guy, but like the AA is, the ability to do what you can or control what you can, and knowing what you
The
can't control.
wisdom, yeah, the wisdom to know what. Yeah, yeah. Remember.
Uh, uh, but that's part of being stoic, or that stoicism, which is a balance. You want to control
Right.
everything because that's the job we've done for our entire careers. But there is we have to learn to be at peace. You can't just be at peace. You got to learn. Like, you got to learn to fight. You got to learn to be at peace. And what Doug said is so fucking on point, that it's about letting go for the things that are out of your control. We're so worried about controlling shit because that's what we did. We get thrown into a situation, fix it. So we do that. But to live long and happy is to let go of the shit that you can't control. And you know what you can control? How you respond to things.
Yep.
Slow your breathing down. Take purposeful breaths and
Mhm.
center yourself and just kind of zone out. I started listening to, like, it's like these calming, like the brown noise, not so much
Yeah,
white
man.
brown
YouTube
noise.
has some binaural I forgot what it's called.
Lateral.
Yeah.
But it's freaking great, man. I've been using it for the last like year and a half now to sleep, and it helps me. It helps me a lot. But really quick, I wanted to say one thing in reference to that is for me, identifying how adrenaline and stress kind of work throughout the day of a police officer. We did a really quick informal study, at the PD and just said, and very, very quickly just kind of said, "Hey, Chris, sit down here. We're going to take your heart rate." Just sitting down, and Chris's heart rate would be at 60, at home. And then, but then when he put the uniform on, so they're riding around, he'd just be at 80, just riding around. The radio would go off and say, "Hey, we got a in progress robbery." As soon as the radio went off, his heart rate shot to 110. And then driving there, stayed at 110. When he got there, now it's at 130. You ain't done shit. You're moving the right foot on the gas pedal and steering the car, but all of that is adrenaline stress all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And you haven't done shit yet. And then you get out the car, and now you're walking up to this robbery scene, and you're at the 150s now. Because we all know we've all heard and seen these type of studies on how Chris has walked up to the front of this burglary or robbery, and the guy he's asking for backup. He's out of breath. You walk 20 yards because your heart rate and all that adrenaline is going on, and you ain't physically done anything that's so identifying that during the whole job, just from the time you put your uniform on to the time you take it off, it's adrenaline coursing through you. And it's a little bit of stress, and we can, the degree and all that. Of course, as you go on through your career, like you just said, you probably want, take a little more to get that heart rate up, but that's the case. So I had to identify that part and then realize that I got to start doing stuff to get me back to that baseline, like Dr. Gil Martin talked about in the book. And you got to identify that, because you start thinking that your baseline was here, but after you became a cop, you think your baseline's up here. No, it's not. You're just operating up there. Your baseline is not there. You got to figure out a way to get back down here in a normal baseline.
Yeah.
And of course, the pitfall is that this is what Chris already talked about, that we'll come down below that baseline. The lows can be really low, so we got to try to fight against that as well. But to me, it's identifying that that's what was going on every day.
Now, if you so, I just should add to that one of the best and worst things that both you and Doug had to deal with throughout your career. Mine was a little different. Was the level of physical fitness that you had to have to do the work that you did. Physical fitness is hands down probably one of the best things you could do for stress and stuff like that. Now, it's good for that, and it's probably why you and Doug could have probably endured 10 times what the average person can, right? Problem is, like I tell everybody, when we talk about it, your threshold is high. Like before anything starts breaking you, it's high, right? But because you're physically fit and you're able to handle it, you're not out of breath as much as the other guy that's not working out or doing anything like that. So you can handle a lot more. But the higher your threshold, the farther you fall, which kind of plays into like with the stuff that you guys have had to do your whole career. My whole career wasn't physical fitness. The majority of my career, I was eating some nasty shit, delicious food, right? Going 7-Eleven, stuff like that. Working out. I didn't work. I drank and then I bought drugs and guns and stuff. That's what I did. It wasn't until towards the end of my career where I was like, I need to get my shit together because I'm going to die if I don't, right? So you guys have the extra. I would say it's almost like a blessing and a curse that you've maintained a level of physical fitness that protected you physically, but because it protected you physically, you could go further down that road of trauma and chaos and stress.
But there's that saying, or that book, I should say, that the body keeps score.
100%.
The body keeps score. So hey, with that, man, we'll leave it on that. Right. We're coming up on time right now. So we'll go around the horn real quick. Doug, man, go ahead. Last words, man, before we sign off, man, about this adrenaline stuff.
Man, I was told, I grew up, I had a cool uncle, man, and he was kind of the guy who taught me the ropes out, had to live on the street. And when I was young, I partied hard and I drank a lot. And, when I say young, like as a young kid playing soccer in that era of my life. And he gave me this saying, and it stuck with me my whole life, and I'll share it with you today. He said, A little bit of something won't kill you, but a lot will. And he was referring back in the day with alcohol because I drank so much. Because a little bit of something's not going to kill you, but a lot of it will.
Yep.
And I took that through my entire life. And I look back now, and a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of all that stuff can ultimately kill you. I'm an example, having a stroke. But the physicality is what saved my ass from that stroke. As you guys know, being in physically great shape, that kind of saved. But moderations, learn to live in moderations, learn to that a little bit of something's not bad, but a lot is, and try to regulate whatever it is that's really affecting you. And if it's your job, then you got to reevaluate. Something that I never did. I didn't reevaluate my career until the very end, until I had to fight for my life, on one particular day, and I just was like, yeah, it's time. And so I'd had too much in a 20-year career. I had had too much, so a lot of it was getting to it. So that would be what I'd say to you: is learn to figure out your threshold and moderate your level of intake,
Yep.
whatever
Chris,
that
yeah.
is.
Nah,
What you got, Chris?
Doug said it. Doug said it.
Yeah.
I would just try to maintain a sense of being humble. Two things that I've learned that I wish I knew a lot sooner in my career was you're not as important as you think you are, right? And the day you stop worrying about what other people think about you is the day you really start focusing on getting better and doing what you need to do, regardless of what anybody thinks. So I just again, just to reiterate all that stuff, there's a lot of bad stuff that you're going to be exposed to. The number one thing you could do is take a moment to figure out how you work through it, because it's different for everybody. But the number one thing that I can assure you is that if you talk or you communicate, hey man, this is bothering me, or something's going on, or I need help, some of the most powerful and strongest men and women in the world have asked that, and then they found it.
Yep. Hey, and I'm just to clarify for anybody listening, we're not saying adrenaline is bad. Adrenaline will get you through some shit. Adrenaline is good. It's getting addicted to it that's bad. Like, and that goes back to what Doug was saying. Like, a little bit ain't gonna kill you, but a lot will. So we're not saying adrenaline is bad. It will get you through some sticky situations, So it's a good thing. Lean into it. Just don't get addicted to it, and recognize if you're having that kind of an issue. And with that, like we always say, thank you for being here, Marky, boss. Thank you, Marky, for doing what you do. And if you or anybody needs or is in crisis and needs us, please reach out to us. Our info is going to be in the credits. We appreciate you. Thank you. Good night, fellas. We'll see you.